November 24th, 2019. Self-pollinating plants for your veggie garden or your indoor greenhouse. With growing concerns over declining populations of pollinators, it's nice to know which veggies are self-pollinating plants and which ones rely exclusively on wind and insect pollinators. Most of us are familiar with the role like the pollinators like bees, wasps, and other bugs have in the process of pollination. Pollination refers to the transfer of pollen from the male part of the flower, the stamen, to the female part of the flower, the pistil. All plants require pollination to make fruit and seeds. Now, everybody's talking about how the pollinators are all going away and they're dying because of 5G and everything else. And well, there is some plants that will grow fine without any of that. And some do require the wind, and there's ways to facilitate that in your garden and also in your indoor greenhouse if you decide to grow stuff during the winter like I do. So, let's get into the list. Self-pollinating plants have complete flowers, both stamen and pistil, in the same bloom. They readily transfer pollen from the stamen to the pistil with even the gentlest breeze. Pollinators that visit these flowers will facilitate pollination and can improve the yield per plant. Well, I don't know. I've been growing my cherry tomatoes indoors. I dug them out and brought them indoors because I didn't want them to stop making cherry tomatoes, the golden cherry tomatoes, and they're working out just fine. In fact, I can't tell the difference between pollinators and me going over there and tap the flowers a little bit once a day so that they pollinate themselves. So, pollinators are not required to make fruit on these plants. In fact, if you are concerned about the lack of pollinators in your garden, you can replicate their action by gently tapping on the stems or brushing against the plant as you walk by. Tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, legumes like beans and peas, and I'm growing some pole beans. These purple pole beans. I'm waiting to see what they taste like. Okra, yeah. Only problem with okra, it's really tall. Of course, those cherry tomatoes are taller than me, and I'm 6'1", so they're getting really, really tall. Plants that can use wind to pollinate their flowers. These plants require either wind or a pollinator to move pollen from the stamen to the pistil. They may have complete flowers or separate male and female flowers. Strawberries. Just think about that. Put a fan on it. It's gentle breeze on it. You can grow them. Corn, same thing. You can take the silk at the top and you mix it with the female part, which is called the corn that you eat. And they put a little silk on there, and the top of the corn is the male part, and that's what you take, and you just brush that up against that silk on those female parts, and that's what creates corn. Wheat. All it takes is a little wind to pollinate wheat and oats. Plants are not usually grown for their flowers or seeds. These plants are grown for their roots and leaves and do not need to be pollinated unless you want to save seeds. Now, that's a good thing to know. So if you can continuously replant potatoes, and if you don't want any seeds, well, you just get seed potatoes. And so they don't need a pollinator. Carrots, onions, garlic, lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Now, you're going to have to kind of put a breeze on them because they do need kind of like a pollinator of sorts. Herbs like rosemary, basil, oregano, mint, thyme, etc. And then you got your whole list of animal things that do require pollinators, but not pumpkins and not squash. You know why? Well, let's go over that. This is another list here, and it's kind of incomplete, and I didn't really like it that much, but I'll leave it in there anyways. You can actually grow certain varieties of peppers are usually self-pollinating, like hot peppers such as jalapenos, sweet bell peppers, so you can grow them inside. This is how you hand pollinate a squash, a cucumber, a pumpkin, a zucchini. Okay, so when it all comes down to this, you have to identify what the blossoms really are. So if you see a blossom like this with no bulge on it like that, that's the male flower, okay? They're useless. They're not going to produce anything but pollen. The female ones are the ones right here with the little bulges on them. Okay, right here's the bulge right here. Looks like it's some type of squash. Can't remember what it is. But that's the female and that's the male. No bulge. Male with the pollinator, no bulge. So what you do with the you take the male flower and you cut it, you just snap it off because it's not going to grow anything anyway. And when it opens up and it's ready to pollinate, you just snap it off, tear the things around it. So you got this nice little stamen right here, and then you can use that into the pistil of the female, and you just rub it inside of there, and then you can pollinate these and grow your own squash and cucumbers and everything else inside. It's a very simple process for self-pollination. They make it sound like rocket scientists. You got to cover it up and make sure you do it this time and then, whatever. And then I've got right here a list of plants that do need pollinators. And like I said, you can grow potatoes, onions, and stuff like that. Especially potatoes, you can actually get more potatoes out of them. Just cut them up for seed potatoes. You don't really need the seeds that it produces at the top to reproduce again, and that's the way most people plant potatoes anyway. So there's a whole variety here, and I'll leave this list in here for you to look over. But I think this is the most important thing is the self-pollinating plants, because I think in the end, if the stuff does hit the fan and there is no pollinators because of massive pesticides or radiation poisoning, or you can think of things like that when stuff hits the fan. Well, if there's no bugs to pollinate them, you better be the bug and learn how to pollinate. Otherwise, you're going to go hungry. You've been warned.